Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to drive-in movie theatres. As someone who's lived in the United States for about 13 years and has seen countless films in that time, I was stunned to discover while looking back through my yearly diaries that I don't actually keep, that I hadn't yet partaken in what was formerly a popular pastime here in the United States. And I suspect that Lawrence from 14 years ago would have been surprised to hear this, given that I probably believed that going to the drive-in movie theatre was all Americans did. I was young, I was naive, and I needed the money. I've just realised that was about something else. But in some respects, it's probably no wonder that I was given this impression. You see, ironically, I became aware of this phenomenon of drive-in movie theatres via American movies, with drive-ins depicted in some of America's best films and also Twister. I did not encounter them in Britain. But, you know, like a mad scientist using a teleportation device, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I go any further, what are drive-in movie theatres? Well, in the simplest of terms, they are outdoor cinemas that you can watch from the comfort or discomfort of your car. And for a while there, they were a huge deal in the United States of America. In fact, surprisingly, the origins of the drive-in movie theatre go back over 100 years. In 1915, a partial drive-in theatre known as Theatre de Guadalupe was opened in New Mexico, showed silent movies for a year, and then closed. And it wasn't until the 1930s and the end of the silent era that the first patented drive-in movie theatre opened in New Jersey. And this Depression-era craze swept across the land, and drive-in theatres were opening everywhere. And after World War II, it all went from strength to strength as both the population and car ownership skyrocketed.
Hi, you hungry? Looking for a tempting treat? Hold on till I absorb some heat. Some added tang might please you too. I'll slide into an oven-fresh bun, and I'm ready for your eating fun.
Why don't you try a juicy good hot dog? Mmm, delicious.
And drive-ins were particularly popular in rural areas, and there's a couple of reasons for this, and none of them have to do with cows. Firstly, it's quiet in the countryside. Out there are no sports cars honking their horns at all hours of the day because a cyclist just looked at them funny. Out there, with the exception of the occasional crop duster and horses clicking their hooves, you could just hear the sound of the film that much better if the audio equipment worked. I am unreasonably excited by the fact that they have little speakers outside of the car and you hook them on to the window frame. Another reason, of course, that drive-in movie theatres are more suited to rural areas is the relative lack of artificial light in the surrounding area. You see, for the projection to work in any meaningful way, it has to be nighttime, otherwise you can't see what the heck is on the screen. Anyway, between the 1970s and 1990s, drive-in movie theatres in the United States started to see a decline. And there wasn't just one singular reason for this, but a whole host of them. From the expansion of home entertainment to the imposition of daylight savings time, meaning that films had to start an hour later, which is an absolute crisis if you're watching Gone with the Wind. And furthermore, real estate interest rate hikes of the 70s and 80s led to substantial increases in the cost of the land, meaning that drive-in theatres were becoming less and less viable. And as time wore on, many of these old drive-in theatres were repurposed as flea markets, which I can confirm are not markets that sell fleas. However, a handful of them did remain open, and to this day there are approximately 330 drive-in theatres in America. And one of those is the Route 34 drive-in in Earlville, Illinois.
Hey, are you excited?
Yeah, I am, despite my face, because I'm about to get a really authentic 1975 experience. Not only are we at the drive-in theatre, but we're going to watch Jaws, admittedly from a Prius. Once we'd set up the speaker and we witnessed Chrissy Watkins getting mauled, we didn't have many sound issues, except I couldn't understand half the words of Mr. Quint, which is consistent with every viewing I've ever had of Jaws. And this was good because it meant we could stick with the old school speakers instead of trying out this modern Bluetooth malarkey. Anyway, Jaws is still great even if I continue to root for the shark. Now, back in the day when I dreamed about going to one of these drive-in theatres, I always assumed I'd turn up in a Cadillac convertible like Elvis. And so because we sat through a 2-hour film inside an enclosed car, it did get a little bit stuffy. And And so we made the decision, a decision that everybody else had made before Jaws, to watch the second film, Jurassic World, outside of the vehicle. And partly because of the resulting mosquitoes, I did root for the dinosaurs. In all, I actually really enjoyed the entire experience.
She made me do this.
And if I could bring back drive-in theatres en masse using my YouTube sensation powers, I would do it in a heartbeat. Actually, there is one other thing that's partially renewed interest in them: the pandemic. Not only are they easier to find in the United States if you know where to look, but in 2020, even in Britain, the country went from 3 drive-in theatres to 40. Yay for the pandemic. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you've been to a drive-in theatre recently or did so in your past. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond. And a cinema screen size shout out to my patrons who make these videos possible. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so at patreon.com/LostInThePond. Until the next video, goodbye.